The Ultraman Omega Episode 1 dub is here, and I was very happy to watch it. Um, Gosh, I have a lot to say about dubs, but I'll try to focus on this episode for the first few minutes at least. So, I really liked it. It was really good. It was very enjoyable. I think the performances of everybody were good. One of the things I liked most, so I guess at a baseline, the performances were good, and I enjoyed the episode. Um, which means to some extent that the story was very good and I really enjoyed it. I love the mystery, I love the setup, but this is my second time going through these first six episodes or so. Um, Obviously, this is just the first of the six. Well, there's more than six, but I think you know what I'm saying. Uh, so there's seeds being planted and there's mystery that's being set up and there's some I don't know the hook's being set, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm hooked. I definitely see an ongoing mystery going on here, and I want to know more about the story. I want to know about Omega, where he came from, why he was doing what he was doing on that bug planet in the beginning. Which, by the way, that fight in the beginning, it's funny. I'm so happy that this is the dub, and I realized that the first 2 minutes of the episode are absolutely well, first of all, they're absolute cinema, and second of all, there's no dialogue at all. There's no dialogue. There's no dub being featured. It's just, you know, as Omega is fighting, and yet it was compelling. There was a story being told. It was a visual story. It was a story of struggle and strife and combat and fighting to the death, but but it was compelling. That sounds like a pretty compelling story, if you ask me. What I'm saying is, I was very excited for the dub. I was very disappointed how long the dub took to come out, and I was relieved when it finally came out. And I think that they're doing great things with it. But I talked about that in a short previously, so I'm not going to bring it up here. But more than that is, I was excited for the dub, and yet it didn't need a dub to tell all this interesting story in 2 minutes, and that's a powerful thing. I think it's a real compliment to the creative crew who's working on this. And really, whether the show has, you're understanding it through subtitles, through your native language, or through it being dubbed, so your native language, but not quite. After the fact, the fact that the first 2 minutes of it are done without dialogue and it's a compelling story is great. It's a huge compliment to the creative team, and I really liked it. Again, and I brought this up in my original review. The effects are incredible. I can't tell where the CGI body double is being used and where it's a guy in a suit, and the compositing is all fantastic. There's a couple little areas where it looks a little weird, but it was funny. I recently played Spider-Man 1 in the background while I was working, and I looked over at the screen a few times, and there's times where you can definitely tell it's CGI, but honestly, looking at this big fight on the bug planet, stop the plus! It made me think about the train fight from Spider-Man 2 and how beautiful, how gorgeous that is. And I thought that's pretty good that for a TV budget, they were able to achieve this quality of special effects. And again, I know that there's definitely suit going on, and then there's CGI. And I sense, I know that there's definitely real suit going on there, and I'm pretty sure there's some body doubling happening. I don't know what it is, but I won't belabor this because I talked about this in my original review. So anyway, going beyond that, I was really stricken by how emotionally resonant it all seemed, how getting to hear in English Omega say, like, I could have sworn I could fly, and things like that. And, I think I can grow bigger, and I think I can fight it. And just a lot of these, like, very simple lines, but just the way they were delivered and hearing them in my own language was very satisfying and very emotional, very charming. Like, previously I felt there was a lot of charm to Omega, and he feels toddlerish and like, oh, what's this and what's this and what's that called and who are you? And seeing him piece things together and try to figure out, working through his amnesia to understand what these foreign concepts are to him, whether it be tissue boxes or clipboards or people being afraid in a situation and acting desperately and selfishly because they're scared for themselves and for people that they love. So selfishly is a relative term there. Seeing him struggle through those things the first time, reading the subtitles, landed one way, it hit one way. Hearing him speak, and Serato has a very different voice from Kosei, for example, and a lot of the other voices are very anime tinged. They have that quality to them where they're larger than life, especially the duo on the radio, which was a lot of fun. But utilizing those types of performances, it colors things so that even without seeing the characters, like the radio characters, for example, or hearing off-screen arguments between people, you don't need to see everything done. Because you don't need to see close-ups on everybody when the performances are so larger than life, and they're so big and pronounced. And we got the advantage of that. And I don't know Japanese, and I don't understand enough Japanese intonation and I'm going to use another tone word, just like tone, to pick up on all the subtleties from watching the subtitled version of it. So watching the dub, I did get to pick up on those things. I got to hear the desperation in the parents' voices, them talking about the details of, oh, our son is over here, and, why isn't he here? Why can't you get him here? And the desperation of the, relief or aid workers saying, everybody's in trouble. We're trying, and it's not just your son that we're worried about. We're worried about everybody's kids. And those things didn't really hit me as well when I watched it originally. And if they did, it's because I paused and I rewound and I slowed things down so that I could really absorb everything that was going on. And this time it was a very much more casual experience, and yet I got all the depth that was there in the story and in the performances from not just Surato and Kosei, but from all these side characters as well, these incidental characters that are just in the scenes, almost background characters. And another thing I picked up on was that the morning radio pair, other than the luxury apartments gag being there, there's a thing where he kind of talks about flat earthers and how, I guess you could say, how information is disseminated or how information is absorbed across people, and how even though we have hundreds of years of data and research on the flat earth, or on the earth being round, rather there are people who think the earth is flat, and the conversation gets cut off, so we don't get to hear the rest of that. But before then, I believe his female co-host is saying something about how everything happens for a reason and things are all interconnected and nothing's an accident, and something about that background interaction or that background exchange being in the show in the background while Kosei is hunting for Surato, who's slurping away at his yakisoba. It feels very meaningful to me, and it feels like a seed that's being planted for later development of the story, of the show. Maybe it has something to do with the theme of the show. And I'm wondering what that is, and it feels significant. It feels important because everything that goes into a production like this is done by choice. And they could have just chosen to let the people riff, but I don't think they did. I think it was on purpose. I think it has something to do, because they were talking about the building, the luxury apartments, apartments, I think, being crashed, sinking into the ground, and Grime, this first kaiju, digs and tunnels, and he can do that sort of thing. He can cause that sort of thing to happen. And then Surato fights him in this episode. And so, that's connected on a minimal level. But I think thematically there's something else going on there. And Surato's learning what it means to be human. He's learning what it means to be a good person. He kind of knows what a good person is as well, though, already, because he calls Kosei a good person. And Kosei kind of has to struggle with his nature and his fear and his doubt and his uncertainty to do the right thing, to help people. But ultimately, he's this noble character, and we get to see that. And I don't know, it's very interesting, and it feels like I'm getting different things from this version of the story. And I'm really appreciating the dub and really enjoying being able to sit back and relax and pick up on things in an easier way, in a more natural way than I would have from watching the subtitled version of it. So I think I'm going to stick with this and watch the second episode dubbed and talk about it, do a little review of it as well, and maybe try to talk about it in a different way until I catch up with episode 7 and talk about it in a, whatever real way, so to speak, whatever real is. Anyway, let me know what you thought about the dub. Let me know what you thought about this episode specifically. If you've watched the subtitled versions and the dub versions, let me know if you're picking up on similar kind of differences, where you're picking up on more nuances from the dub, or what. Let me know what you think about the performances. I'd like to just have a discussion of this overall, and let's talk about it. Anyway, until next time, folks, this is MJ with Going Ultra and Henshin Inspection, and by the way, before I really go, I'm going to let you know, you're probably here because you like children's media. I like children's media. I wrote a children's book called Mockwing Mayhem. There's a trailer for it coming up here. Basically, it's about magical bugs battling monsters, but you can find out more about it here, and I think you should check it out. I think you'll like it. Magical bugs battle monsters in this exciting fantasy adventure. Gremlings prey upon children. Growbugs protect them. When a gremling finds a hidden growbug fort, the whole flock makes a surprise attack. How will the growbugs survive? Find out in Mockwing Mayhem. Learn more at growbugs.com, where you can find out more about our mailing list, receive behind-the-scenes information, and get all the latest news on the growbugs.